Okay, so our next lesson actually speaks about something we're going to learn about going forward. And it speaks to proving things, which nobody has any experience with yet. And hopefully we're going to be able to give you that experience. But in math, a lot of times you're going to be asked, especially in geometry, to prove something true, going step by step. And to prove something true, there are certain basic facts you need to accept. We can't prove everything. So basically, what math has done is we've taken a few um, rules that we've never seen proven otherwise, and we accept them as truth. And that's what a postulate is. It's a rule that's accepted without proof. Almost everything we have in math and almost every theorem you learn, basically going from chapter 2 to the end of the book, is something that can be proven. Sometimes we will prove it. Sometimes we'll just write the theorem down and apply it. But you should be aware of proofs, and you are going to have to be able to do some proofs as well. And to do proofs, the first thing we need to do is come up with some basic rules that are just accepted without proving it. And I have some examples below as to what postulates would look like in the real world. So this is not obviously based on geometry, but these are just some rules that we treat as fact in the world, even if we don't know them to be true. Now, the first one, and this is where postulates can be dangerous, is the Earth is flat. We know that's not to be. We know that not to be true. We know the Earth is round. You can use experiments on the ground to prove the Earth is round and not flat. You can also, obviously, we can see satellite photos of the globe showing that clearly the Earth is a sphere and not flat. Regardless of what people may believe otherwise, but according to science, the Earth is not flat. But the fact of the matter is that is something we accepted as true for a long time, since humans were on the planet. And it really is only recently, when I say recently, I'm talking 500, 600 years ago, which is pretty recent from the beginning of mankind. But but in that sense, it has been a little more recent that we've accepted the fact that the Earth is no longer flat, but it is round. But there was a time that we just accepted the Earth to be flat. The Earth is the center of the universe. We also know that one's not to be true. I'm not even sure what the center of the universe is, but the center of our solar system is the sun. It's obviously not the Earth. So we'll use the sun as the center of our particular universe here, that everything that we know of is in orbit around the sun. But once again, there was a time we thought the Earth was the center of the universe. Clearly, it is not through our scientific study. But once again, that's what a postulate is. So that's why they're a little bit dangerous. And all mathematicians, you may not feel this way, but all mathematicians are really hoping that none of our postulates are ever proven false, because we'd run into some issues. The next two also speaks to how hard it is to prove something true. Usain Bolt is the fastest man in the world. Usain Bolt won the gold medal in, I believe, 2008, 2012, and 2016. I'm not sure if he was going to try and defend it in 2020. But he was the Olympic gold medalist in the 100 meters for 3 straight Olympics. It's a pretty safe postulate to say he's the fastest man in the world, in addition to your record his times. But there are 7 billion people on the planet. And maybe there's someone we've never heard of that never got an opportunity to track that might be faster than him. The fact is, we don't know. We haven't seen Usain Bolt race against everyone in the world and do it constantly, because you'd have to keep proving it as well. So while it's a safe assumption or a postulate that Usain Bolt is the fastest man in the world, it's not necessarily something we can take as fact, because it's impossible to prove. And that's what we're going to be doing later on in math, is actually proving things. And the second one as well, Michael Phelps can swim faster than you. Michael Phelps has 28, I think, Olympic medals, might be even gold, I'm not even sure. I think he has over 20 gold medals, though. He probably can swim faster than you. But until you swam against Michael Phelps, well, there's, I guess, a chance. And therefore, that would be considered a postulate more than a theorem, which is, a theorem is something that we can prove, whereas postulates are rules we accept without proof. Most of you would probably accept the fact that Usain Bolt can run faster than you and Michael Phelps can swim faster than you. And that's essentially what a postulate is, something we accept as truth without proving it. Now, go to the next page here. So now let's go to our first postulate. And this is a mathematical postulate. I don't think a lot of you are going to have many issues with it, but it's a good example, a nice simple one to start off with. And that's called our ruler postulate. I can't prove this, but we've never seen a situation where this is not true. And that is the points on a line can be matched 1-to-1 with real numbers, and the real number that corresponds to a point is the coordinate of that point. And the distance between those points, A and B, written as AB, is the absolute value of the difference between the coordinates of A and B. So if I make that, I think, a little simpler, that's a pretty wordy postulate. Essentially what they're saying is if I make point B at 4, that's the only place point B can be. I can't make point B 3 as well. And we learned that in algebra, actually. When you set something equal to x, once you establish what x is, that's it. You can't change the value. Same deal here. If 4 represents B, then it's going to be that way the entire problem. If 1 represents A, then it's going to be that way the entire problem. There's no adjusting it. And the length of this line will always be the difference of these two coordinates by its absolute value. And that allows us to do 4 minus 1 is 3, and the absolute value of 3 is 3. It also allows us to go 1 minus 4, which is -3, and the absolute value of -3 is 3. Therefore, the postulate accounts for every single option. It also speaks to the fact that I can be labeling this line AB or BA, and it doesn't matter which numbers I subtract as long as I'm subtracting them. All right. Same deal with an option like right here. Okay. We have a coordinate 6 and a coordinate -4. 6 minus a -4 is 10. -4 minus 6 is -10. And -10's absolute value is 10. So once we establish -4 is with A and 6 is with B, that is it. And then this one we're going to talk about a little bit later on. It's an interesting postulate that we're going to use to prove things. And essentially what this postulate is saying is that A is 1, B is 3, and C is 4. And essentially we could say that AC would have a distance of 3, 4 minus 1. BC would have a distance of 1, 4 minus 3. And BA would have a distance of 2, 3 minus 1. And if you notice, AB plus BC, 2 plus 1 equals 3. And what's my length of AC? AC would be 3, the 4 minus 1. Even if you didn't understand everything there, try and keep that in the back of your mind because we are going to come back to that next section. And now we're going to get our important postulates. You do not need to memorize these word for word, but you should understand the idea behind every one of them. That part should be committed to memory. The fact that there are 2 points, that means we have exactly one line. So any 2 points in the world I can find, we can always draw one line between those 2 points and only one line. Through number 2, non-collinear points, there's exactly one plane. So if I have 3 non-collinear points, which means 2 points that obviously have to be collinear because any 2 points form a line, but then 1 point off that line, I'm going to get one in only one plane. Every line has to have at least 2 points. While lines will have infinite amount of points, every line has to have at least 2 points. Every plane has to have at least 3 points, and those 3 points have to be non-collinear. If 2 points line a plane, so if you have a plane and you put 2 dots anywhere in that plane, the line that connects those 2 dots would also be in that plane. And then the last 3 is stuff we've already talked about as well. Where lines intersect, they always intersect at one exact point. If a line and plane intersect, they're always going to intersect at one point in the plane. And then finally, if 2 planes intersect, their intersection is a line. So if you see like where the ceiling meets a wall, it forms a line. Planes don't intersect at a point, they intersect at a line. And these are the important postulates you're going to need to know going forward. Once again, you don't need to memorize them word for word, but you should know planes intersect at a line. Lines intersect at a point. 2 points are minimum to make a line. 3 points are minimum to make a plane. All right, these are kind of the major ideas that you should know. Every line has at least 2 points. Every plane has at least 3 non-collinear points. Okay.